Right, I'm going to take a look at my own poem, Song, now. It was written in 1982, so it's very old, and I don't necessarily remember a lot about it. I remember something about it. Let's begin by me reading the poem. Song. Encountering my image in your radiant eyes, I love myself reflected in that glow of dancing light, and almost feel a sense of rash delight, as knowingly I lead you on with similes and smiles. In your animation, my own perfection is perfected. My beauty forms through your illumination, defines itself in your translucent light. Then, softly iridescent, it lies upon the night. Written in 1982. So it's very old. It's very old indeed, and yet it has some qualities, I think. It's a young man's poem. I was in my 20s for sure when I wrote this. What strikes me reading it now is that it seems to have a kind of Buddhist perspective. Well, perhaps not, but it's certainly talking about the way in which beauty is not real, or it's generated by people's minds. Here it seems to be the speaker whose beauty is being generated in the mind of the other person, and there is a suggestion that this is always how it happens, that beauty, and by implication anything else, is always generated in the minds of other people. It doesn't really exist. So that would be a very Buddhist point. I'm quite sure I wasn't a Buddhist when I wrote it, but anyway, perhaps I was on that road and going in that direction. It's certainly about the insubstantiality of feelings, the unreality of feelings. We think they're real, but actually they are generated by the mind. Encountering my image in your radiant eyes, I love myself reflected in that glow of dancing light. So the beauty is created in the eyes of the radiant eyes of the other person, and almost feel a sense of rash delight, as knowingly I lead you on with similes and smiles. I think that was originally with grimaces and smiles, and then someone read it and suggested to me that grimaces was wrong. I guess I sort of meant pulling faces in a kind of funny way or something like that, but when I read it through, I tended to agree that in terms of the poem, it didn't fit in very well, grimaces, so I changed it. Found it a bit difficult to think of an alternative, but finally came up with similes. I'm still not sure that it's really exactly as it should be, if it's really right. In your animation, my own perfection is perfected. My beauty forms through your illumination, defines itself in your translucent light. So, same point really. It's in the animation of the other person that the perfection is perfected. Anima, soul. So it's in the moving of the other person's soul that the perfection is perfected, but it's not really real. The beauty is not really real. My beauty forms through your illumination, so it's a reflection. What is it the Buddhists say sometimes? That the mind is like, they say the mind is like the moon reflected in water. It has no real substance. So it seems a bit the same here. Beauty doesn't seem to have any substance either. It's a reflection in the eyes of the other person, but something that doesn't actually exist. It's defined by the mind of the other person. Then, softly iridescent, it lies upon the night. No need to labor the double meaning here, so it lies upon the night is kind of a nice poetic line, but there is also the double meaning of lies. That it's the beauty is lies. It doesn't really exist. It's just something cooked up, something created in the mind of the other person. So yeah, that's probably what's most interesting to me about it now. That it's quite profound, perhaps from the philosophical point of view. In terms of its structure, it's lines of varying length. You would call it free verse, I suppose, and the ear of the writer dictates where the lines should end and how long they should be. And there is occasional rhyming in no particular um, rhyme scheme, decided by dramatic emphasis, I would say, most of the time. It's just for rhyming, for emphasis, to make a point very strongly, to shock. Um, yeah, it was very influenced by the modernist poets, as I always have been and still am. I think at this time I was just writing my master's thesis on t.s.eliot and his influence on the British poets of the 1930s. So there's definitely strong influence here from the modernist poets, as there always has been in my work and still is right up to the present day. So let's finish by just reading it one more time. Song. Encountering my image in your radiant eyes, I love myself reflected in that glow of dancing, dancing light, and almost feel a sense of rash delight, as knowingly I lead you on with similes and smiles. In your animation my own perfection is perfected, my beauty forms through your illumination, defines itself in your translucent light. Then, softly iridescent, it lies upon the night.